The essence of basketball. I don't know if you can be a basketball player without experience.
B-Ball Radio.
What's up, everybody? Peace. This is Bobbito Garcia, aka Cool Bob Love. You're listening to B-Ball Radio. I'm joined by my co-host,
Eric Newman, West Coast. Let's go.
We have a wonderful guest today. He's a friend, a co-parent, a father, a former ball player at my alma mater, Wesleyan University, the second product of that program to ever appear in a Nike basketball commercial. We'll find out who the first one is soon. And, and a social justice activist.
I think you're talking about yourself.
Maybe. And he's also an up-and-coming author. Josh Meyer, how are you, man?
I'm great, Bob. Thanks so much for having me. I feel really grateful to be here with you both. Just an honor. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, will you quit it with the Come on, we want the lively Josh that's on the basketball court just talking smack. Don't be so formal, bro. It's good. You have B-Ball Radio, not MSNBC.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm just grateful. I've really enjoyed the pod. The pod is dope.
Thank you.
And I'm, big fan of you both. The work that you do is great. And I wish I was on the court with y'all right now, shooting some hoops and talking. I love getting out there on the court with you, Bob.
Yeah, Eric, so the way me and Josh met was a mutual friend, Peter Robert Casey, who over at Slam, is friends with Josh and said, "Oh, you went to Wesleyan, you should reach out to another a fellow alum, Bob." And so Josh hit me up, and the love of basketball, the love of a shared experience on campus. I mean, I'm class of 88. He's probably, what are you, class of 99?
2000.
Yeah. So, we forged a beautiful friendship. He came up and shot around with me a few times, got silky smooth jump shot. Eric, he would be good for your pick and pop. The three of us on a 3-on-3 would be okay in lower level competition. In D3 competition.
Way to keep it real, Bob. Way to keep it real.
Yeah, we'd be okay. But so Josh, what are you up to these days that's got you really like pumped up, particularly like your work in progress book? Would you be so kind to share the title and the theme of that?
Sure. Yeah, it's called Seeing from the Heart. And it's based on my experiences as a coach, and also my experiences in a multiracial family, as a dad raising Black daughters, and just my experiences kind of seeing the world through their lens. I've been gifted that opportunity, as a white man, and just some of my experiences in
Wait, you're
coaching.
White? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And some of my experiences in coaching, I think, were pretty unique. My path. So the combination of those things, just have allowed me to see the world, I think, in a different way. And it's something that I want to share with others. I think, I feel really called to do that. So
how intertwined is co-parenting, and you coached at St. Michael's in Vermont, is in terms of being bobbing and weaving, or like doing a 3-man weave, if you will, which I always used to get confused with. The 5-man weave was even worse. But so how are you writing this book where you're trying to balance the two of being a parent and being a coach? Because there are definitely similarities, and there are completely disparate roles in life.
Yeah, there's a lot of it has to do with a different way of being, a different model of leadership, empowerment, just really trying to empower people as much as possible. And that was definitely part of my pedagogy as a coach, as a teacher, as an educator. I've been an educator since I graduated from Wesleyan in 2000, coach, teacher, administrator. And I've always believed in empowering, kind of a different way of doing things than the old school model of coaching. And I had an opportunity to do a project. I was at Harvard for my graduate degree in education, and I was a graduate manager with the men's basketball team. I got to work with Tommy Amaker, Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, Professor Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, Coach Tommy Amaker. I was, really blessed to have that opportunity. And we did a project called Coach as Teacher, I had been an assistant coach for 7 or 8 years up until that point, kind of paid my dues, a basketball nomad, and took about 5 years to get dental benefits.
Wait,
And
where were
then
you assistant coaching?
all over. I started at John Jay College in New York
Oh,
City. That was my first job. Shout out to Guy Raincourt.
Yeah. Athletic director, great guy.
Yeah, Guy is the best.
Mhm.
And I knew Guy. He was my high school coach. And then,
Really?
yeah, he was at Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut. Guy was the assistant coach, and I got to know him there. And then he got the John Jay job. I graduated from Wesleyan.
Wait, time out. This is how our worlds collide. I was the assistant coach for John Jay College as well in 2004, 5 for the women's squad. Sean Couch. Eric,
Yeah.
I know you know who he is.
Tony Campbell was the other assistant coach.
What?
TC. Yeah, Tony Campbell.
Tony
and
Campbell
Sean
from
Couch was-
Ohio State that played for the Knicks and the Lakers.
That's right. Tony was the other
Did
assistant
he
coach.
cook you
so I
in
got to-
practice?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you even try to guard Tony Campbell in practice?
No. It was great.
I
Tony's an
love
awesome guy.
Tony Campbell's game. Teaneck, New Jersey, represent, yo.
That's right. Yeah. So Tony, I got to work with Tony, and they had Guy had teams coming in to John Jay, NBA teams to practice there because it was the
all the
only
time.
facility in Manhattan. So I got to see like
Two gyms.
Allen
Two gyms.
Iverson. Yeah, Allen Iverson and just different teams practicing was pretty amazing.
Did AI ever cook you in the gym too?
No, I never. But I did get to watch AI practice. And
you didn't
and
ask
Coach
AI to
Brown-
be like, yo, guard up, money. Like, you didn't do that?
No, it was pretty cool to see AI, he didn't practice that much. He was kind of just hanging out, coaching, and
Man, you could have went to the back gym and been like, yo, AI, come on, B, guard up, yo.
Yep,
I would have done that.
Hey, real quick about Tony Campbell. Played for the Knicks, played for the Lakers, also played for the Pistons. What do those three teams all have in common, Bob?
They all lost to the
They're
Celtics.
all rivals of the Celtics.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Eric always finds a way to mention the Celtics in every single episode of B-Ball Radio.
I just figured I'd get it out of the way early.
No,
today.
all good.
It's been a green summer.
Yeah.
It's been a green summer. I loved walking into John Jay though. Just like old school, right? The courts were side by side but perpendicular, one the long way, one across. And at the time it was like, where can you do stuff in the city?
In Midtown,
that's more than one court.
Well,
So
there was
look
the
at that.
New York Athletic Club, which is not that far either, but that's you got to have.
I didn't have that VIP access.
Yeah. I had listen, I had a teammate at Wesleyan named Matt Glazer. He was nasty. He brought me to the NYAC while we were in school, and I was blown away because the court is beautiful. It's nice and old school. Anyway, back to you, Josh. Me and Eric, we have a lot of stories.
I love it. No, I love it. It's great. Yeah. And Eric, I actually grew up a Boston fan as well. Bob, you might not be friends with me anymore after I admit that, but my dad was a Boston fan, so I grew up going to the old Garden. Wow. It was great, with the organ, and we'd sit up in the nosebleeds behind the obstructed views, and I grew up, kind of going back and forth because I was in Connecticut, but between Boston and New York, going to Madison Square Garden for games or Boston Garden. So the Celtics.
All right, so
I like the Celtics growing
enough
up.
of the Celtics. Back to your assistant coach, and you're leading up to Tommy Amaker. Your bond with Tommy, who played at Duke, and did he play in the NBA, Eric?
I think he got drafted. He may have gotten drafted. He played in the Olympics. Great player, great person, awesome coach. I was an assistant coach. Bounced around. Guy gave me my first opportunity. John Jay, NYU, Fairfield U, Connecticut College, Stonehill. And then you're
bouncing around to become assistant coaches at all these schools. How and why?
Trying to get a full-time role. It was really hard. You had to pay your dues and really grind. And I had some assistant coaching positions where I was part-time. You worked full-time, or I was a graduate assistant. After about 5 years, I got my first full-time assistant position at Stonehill College in Easton, Massachusetts.
That D3 or D2 or
D2? Okay. They're D1 now. And that was my first role as a full-time assistant, and I did that for 3 years. And then I went to Harvard as a graduate assistant. I got into the ed school. I wanted to really kind of I always thought of coaching as educational, and I saw myself as a teacher. I really believed in the John Wooden model
Hmm.
of doing things. And, when I was assistant coach, it definitely seemed like more of a business, and I wanted to like learn how to really be an educator. And I got into a teacher education program, and I had a connection to Tommy Amaker through a friend of mine, Tim O'Toole, who I worked with at Fairfield U. He's now the associate head coach at Pittsburgh.
Nice.
But Tim connected me with Tommy Amaker, and I was able to get a graduate assistant position where I was a graduate manager, just kind of doing whatever they needed me to do, sweeping the floor, getting water. But I had this really amazing opportunity to observe Coach Amaker, to be in the ed school, bless you. And I was also doing my practicum in teaching at the time.
That was seamless.
At Cambridge Ringe and Latin. And so the
Where
combination
Pat
of all
Ewing
these things.
once was a
That's
high school
right.
All-American.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pat Ewing, Ramil Robinson.
Word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I kind of approached Professor Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, amazing human person, teacher, educator. And I was in a class with her, and I proposed this project where I would, observe Coach Amaker and work with her. She would coach me through this approach. She called it portraiture, sociological approach of like just really, interviewing people, but really doing it from a place of getting to know them, and not kind of, and I was at a perfect opportunity as an insider with the team. I could observe Coach Amaker, on a daily basis, take notes. And then at the end of the season, we sat down several times, and I just asked him questions based on what I had seen, kind of the season we'd been through. And I would go back and forth between he and Professor Lawrence Lightfoot, who would kind of help me develop this paper that I was writing. And it was pretty amazing. At the end, they met. Coach Amaker comes from an educational background. His mom was a teacher. And he knew Professor Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, and we sat down and had a meal at the end. But it was pretty special experience, and it really it was the foundation for my philosophy, pedagogy when I became a head coach eventually at St. Michael's in 2013. And a lot of it had to do with empowering people around you, and I think that was really different than what I had been around some great coaches who did that too, but especially Coach Amaker really tried to empower his team, as opposed to this old school model of coaching where players didn't say anything. He really wanted to know what they were thinking. Even in timeouts, he would ask them, what do you think? What do you think? And I wrote a lot about that, how the players are, the experts. There's so many different situations and so much ambiguity, and they have to be out there and navigate that, and, really empowering them as players. But taking that a step further, from an educational standpoint, some of the things I was learning about, really empowering students in the classroom, in schools. That's also, it was not it was not the conventional way of doing things, the traditional way of doing things. And that has shifted within education. I think coaching is catching up to that, that empowerment model. And
so wait, time out. I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because I could tell Eric wants to share whether Tommy Amaker played in the NBA or not. Eric?
That's scary. I have two questions, but that was one of them. Amaker drafted 55th overall by the Seattle Supersonics, 1987 draft.
Got you.
Don't believe he played.
Okay. Okay, good.
I got a question real quick. So, Josh, we're the same year. I went to Ithaca, played D3 football, but hoops was always the love. So I was going to be a broadcaster. Didn't have the patience for that. Did Ivy Sports at Cornell for 1 year. Happened to be the first year Steve Donahue was the head coach, so he became a great friend. But, I got into coaching. I started going to the Final Four every year. I was coaching high school, meeting all these college coaches, and not exactly loving what the vibe was in terms of the business. So what went into, like how difficult was that decision for you to make? Because I'm sure the dream for a long time was like the allure of everything you saw in college basketball. And then you realized this was not the lane you wanted to be in. You're driven to be an educator first, not be part of that business machine first. I'm just interested, like, how difficult was that decision to make, and what else went into it?
I'm also going to pad that to Eric's question. You gave the example of Tommy Amaker giving voice to his players, right? But how else does one empower their players, or not maybe in Tommy's case, but you as an assistant, and leading up to the point where you become a head coach at St. Michael's? So if you could sort of dive into both me and Eric's, we're both giving you the rock, basically. Well, actually, Eric is setting a pick for you, and I'm passing you.
No doubt. Yeah.
Star in your role.
Yeah.
In your role.
Those 7 or 8 years I was an assistant coach before I went back to school at Harvard, I think each, like I was really excited. And also I learned quickly that it was a business, and that was kind of disheartening about it as well. And I always loved, like team, education, working together, community. I learned so much from basketball, from being part of teams, being part of diverse teams. And then, having this kind of, these glimpses of getting into college coaching and seeing the business side of things, seeing how people are used, student athletes, players, for winning by the institutions, by the coaches, and, and people's jobs depend upon winning, coaches' jobs depend upon winning, athletic directors' jobs depend upon winning. And, you kind of feel that. And I didn't know exactly what I was feeling. It took a while, but I wanted to kind of get back to the educational part of it. And I didn't know whether I was going to go on to be a teacher or if I was going to stay in college coaching. I thought that might be an opportunity to do both, but just to kind of expand my options. But most importantly, just continue to develop my perspective on, and understand what I had done as an assistant coach and what I wanted to do moving forward, both professionally and from a philosophical standpoint, from a kind of a pedagogical standpoint. And, and so that was a really good opportunity to kind of explore all that, and understand why I was feeling some of those things. And, and I did that project with Professor Lawrence Lightfoot and Coach Amaker, and I was, really lucky to work with the both of them, and hear about their experiences. It wasn't just about that season. Coach Amaker talked about his experiences coming up, being an assistant coach at Duke, the turnaround shot by Leitner, which I still vividly remember, the full court pass turnaround shot. He was, part of that. And we discussed that, but a lot of it, empowerment, like that's the word I think of. And that's, what he did really well. And it was really refreshing to be around him, to be in educational spaces, to learn. I was learning how to be a teacher. The program was an urban education program. It was a program that really focused on underserved communities, especially. And so I took a lot of classes that talked about, things like privilege, concept like privilege, and anti-racism and things of that nature. And this was all kind of, I was digesting it all in these 2 years that I was there. And then I got out of college coaching. Bob, getting into your question here, I got out of college coaching, and I was a high school coach for a year in Worcester, Massachusetts, head coach at Burncoat High School, which was a great experience. It was my first head coaching experience. And then I had an opportunity to get back into college coaching, and I hadn't been a college head coach, and I really wanted to do that. I was an assistant coach at St. Michael's for a couple of years. Then I became the head coach in 2013. And, it was important for me to not only empower the student athletes as basketball players, I wanted to empower them as people, and really, create experiences that were holistic, educationally connected to their other experiences on campus. We had a really diverse team. St. Michael's is a primarily white institution, PWI. Our team was, majority were Black and brown student athletes, and I was a white head coach. And, they talk about college coaching and college sports. There's a lot of, it's a racist system that, when done the wrong way, can really take advantage of student athletes of color, for profit, for wins, and for money for the institution. And I was aware of that, and really was trying to be as mindful as possible about working against that, and really wanted our student athletes to have great educational experiences, learn and grow as much as possible. And I think sometimes that can really go against the business of winning. And that was hard for me to do for 6 years. And there's a lot that happened within that we can go into about, the team kind of when they were empowered, and we did a lot of retreats to help them reflect, where we didn't even talk about basketball. We talked about identities, et cetera, context. And, I think the student athletes felt like they were in a space where they could be themselves. And we had some opportunities to protest during a very politically charged time, and they took advantage of that, and they did some really amazing work, and I just supported that. I facilitated. They wanted to do it. Even that commercial, like, Bob, it was the student athletes in the commercial, and I wasn't in. I'm not on camera, but I feel like I was part of that. We took a knee in 2017, and the four seniors, there were more that took a knee, but four of the seniors were on that superimposed next to Colin Kaepernick in the "You Can't Stop Us" Nike commercial, which went viral. But it was one, really proud moment. When we did that, when the guys decided they wanted to take a knee, our coaching staff, we had, 3 white coaches, took a knee with them. I think we were one of the first teams to have student athletes and coaches take a knee together to protest systemic racism, police brutality, et cetera. And we got a lot of backlash. It wasn't, this was 2017. Teams started to do it more in 2020 during the pandemic, following George Floyd. Black Lives Matter became, popular and, performative to a degree as well. And we were doing it before then, and really, really took a lot of heat. And I was just really proud of the guys, and I was proud to see them get that recognition after, doing that and having the courage to do that. And Nike happened to find them, hear about the story and pick up on it. And they reached out to the athletic department at St. Mike's.
Did it hit national media immediately when it happened, or was it just local, hyper local?
When we took a knee initially, local, very, and Vermont, it was really interesting because Vermont and Burlington especially is considered, a very liberal, progressive city and area, and it was extremely. Is up there. That's right, Bernie's up there. Yep. So it was not. We faced a lot of racism. When it happened, there were people yelling all types of things from the stands, yelling "Go back to Africa" to the team.
Student body or opposing team
fans, and it was, it's a big game up there. We're Division II, University of Vermont. It happened at University of Vermont. They're Division I, and it's a big kind of exhibition game. It's the first game of the year. It's an opportunity for the community to see both teams, St. Michael's, UVM. There's a history, a tradition. UVM was sold out, probably about 3,000 or 4,000 people. And it was an extremely racist and charged environment. People were yelling things. It felt like, very much on the brink of violence. Like you kind of felt that energy. People were running up to the bench. It was extremely, extremely charged.
So my brother went to UVM, right, in the late 70s, early 80s. Pedro Albizu Campos, the sort of leader of the Nationalist Party in Puerto Rico, which fought heavily for the independence and sovereignty of the island from U.S. imperialism. He also went to UVM, right? So you have some great, great minds that have been there, right? But in the midst of that, I remember my brother hit me up in when he was a freshman. He was like, "Bob, there's more cows in this state than Black people or Latinos, period." He was like, "The student body is so underrepresented with people of color. It's ridiculous." He's like, "I don't know if I'm going to last here." So that's the climate for decades leading up to this moment. I'm wondering, what was your initial reaction when your players are like, "Hey, we want to take a knee," or did they not discuss it with you prior, did they just feel empowered and say, hey, like, this is the national anthem, we didn't speak to the coaches about it, we're just going to take it?
We had talked about it
You
for
did.
a while,
Okay.
actually, for 2 years.
Oh,
It was a
really?
conversation the year before the team was deciding whether they wanted to do it, and we had talked about it, during that year leading up to that. We go away on retreat, and we had kind of really been reflecting upon it as a team. And I just let the guys know I support whatever they do, and that I wanted them to have a conversation around it and make a decision as a team about what they wanted to do. And and when they decided to do it, I let them know that I would take a knee with them, and that our coaches did too, and that I believed in what it stood for. And but I didn't want to influence them in any way other than like letting them know, like, hey, like, I want y'all to have a conversation, do what you think is right, and I support whatever you choose. And I really tried to kind of protect them from the outside noise, because there was people on both sides that were saying you should take a knee, you shouldn't take a knee. And I just wanted to let them know, like, do what you all you think is right, and what is in your hearts. And just have a really kind of thoughtful dialogue around it, where you get to a point where it makes sense, where it feels right. And they did that, and then they let us know. And and I was just I wanted to let them know that I was with them. And when they took a knee, the coaches took a knee as well. People were yelling at us. People were not happy with my leadership, wanted me fired. The presidents did not support us at the institutions. And we were really on an island, as a team. A lot of negative media attention. There were some, people in media that really supported us, especially people of color in the community, alums like Jason Curry was a huge supporter. Just really appreciative of Jason's support. Jay was great. He really organized alum. We had a lot of conversations. He came to games. The opponents, when we started taking a knee, they didn't want to play the anthem. We would go to places, the college, they would let us know we're not going to play the anthem, because they were afraid of what was going to happen. Which is ironic, right? Institutions can choose whether or not they want to play the anthem, but people were mad at us for exercising our rights as as citizens to peacefully protest. And a lot of us had family members in service, including myself. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. But, like that was kind of part of, it was being manipulated a little bit, what the protest stood for. And people were saying that it was not patriotic, et cetera. And, we did a lot of panels after our team. They weren't just taking a knee. Which, even up there was an ESPN affiliate that said we were just, trying to get attention and things like that, when there had actually been a really extensive dialogue. It was kind of really part of who we were as a team, the whole notion of empowerment. And, I think in educational space, I think there were probably a lot of student athletes and teams throughout the country that would want to do that, just didn't have the voice, and I really wanted to help our guys have voice.
So this goes back to empowerment, right? So your players felt empowered, and this is part of your like preparation to get to this point. How much of a distraction does it become to their playing, or did they actually wind up playing even better because they felt empowered?
That's a great question. I think about that. I think about that a lot. Yeah. I think it was really hard for all of us, to be honest. It was, that game was intense. It was hard to play after our guys did it. I told them how proud I was of them. They continued to take, we continued, to take a knee. Anytime, my kind of thought process was, anytime a guy was going to take a knee, I was going to take a knee with them in support, whether it was one guy or multiple guys. And we kind of talked about it. We let them know, like, hey, this, whatever, each game, this can be a fluid thing. You can change your perspective, like, what you want to do. You don't, like, it's really up to you. And I think that was something that they really wanted to be part of. It was, that fluidity where they could take a knee if they felt moved to. And we had a guy during that first UVM game who wasn't going to take a knee, and he ended up taking a knee when he heard the crowd yelling at the other guys who had taken a knee. It was pretty powerful, and you can see it in the video. The video's on, on the internet. But he decided to take a knee, with his brothers, with the guys. When you're part of a team, those are your brothers, and he heard them, the crowd kind of go in at them. But yeah, the guys did it, Bob, for 2 years. We took a knee. We came back to UVM the next year and did it again. We had a lot of support from students at St. Michael's, and there were, they really wanted to make sure they were behind us. We had some just really awesome support at the game that following year, and throughout the season, during the anthem, guys would take a knee when they felt called to it, and I think it pretty much happened in most games. And we had, some white student athletes decide to really get on board, which was great for me to see. It was something that I mentioned, especially as a white man, taught, the importance of, being a co-conspirator, or, the kind of just doing the anti-racist work, and, using your privilege to amplify the voice of others, and join in the movement. We don't have enough white people, especially white men, who are willing to kind of, make those sacrifices. And so that was really, I think, important for me to see that there were some white athletes, student athletes, who were really getting involved. And we actually had a video that came out that second year that was released, where it was one of our student athlete, a black student athlete and a white student athlete, released a video to really be intentional about, what they were doing. It's on the internet as well. But, the statement where, didn't want it to be manipulated, what the meaning was and why they were doing what they were doing, and to be very clear, because it was getting manipulated, and they did that, and it was great. And there was less backlash the second year. That first year was intense, and I think it did have an impact. It was heavy, and I tried to insulate them from that as much as possible, but it was a heavy time, politically, socially, and I think we all felt that. And I think that was my job, was to just kind of facilitate. I always saw myself as a facilitator, someone, get out of the way, empower the guys, let them, have as much voice as possible. And then also during that time, though, I wanted to kind of protect them, because there was a lot of heat and a lot of hate and a lot of racism. So kind of, I felt like I could take that on. And I really tried to do that as much as possible, and just let them know that there were people out there like Jason Curry and many, alums of color, who were really proud of them and believed in what they were doing. Jason said it was, and others said it was their proudest moment, as an alum, when the team was doing that. And so I was really proud of the guys, but it definitely, I think everyone felt that, and maybe at times it gave us energy, and at times it took away from our energy and our focus too. And there were bus rides, but that, I think that's part of being a team. I don't think it's just about basketball. And even if that means, I've always felt that way, empower the guys, provide them with great educational experiences. And that can be contradictory with winning. It can go against that, and I was at peace with that. I'd rather kind of, at the end of my career in 2019, I could look back and say, I did it the right way. I empowered our guys.
So you left the school, or they let you go?
I left in 2019, but I think I felt a lot of, so the business of basketball lost its soul. And I think that really, that experience was a catalyst. Kind of it sped that process up. I think that process started when I was an assistant coach, where basketball was losing its soul, not basketball, but coaching. And I lost my love for the game, kind of as I had done it for over 20 years. The business of college coaching, really took a lot out of me, and especially that experience, going through that experience with the team and seeing how people reacted, and the racism, it confirmed things. It is a racist business, and it's a system, and just like other systems, they're oppressive in their different ways, and it was oppressive, and I saw that, and I didn't want to in any way. I was trying to go against just I think players can get really used, and especially student athletes of color at at the highest levels. And but we were scholarship level, and I think there's still pressure to win, and that can mean if someone's not performing, you might have to take their scholarship away. And I was always someone who was like, I didn't believe in that, and I think at times believed in sacrificing basketball so that they could do well in the classroom and so that they could have experiences like we went through, that were learning experiences that were connected to other aspects of their life, and where they were growing holistically.
I've got a lot of different directions I could go here. I'm amazed at how liberal that part of Vermont is supposed to be, while at the same time Bob sharing the realities of what UVM campus was in terms of diversity. But what I want to touch on and make sure we don't skip over it. It's like, what's in between where we are currently in 2024 and that time, of course, is just the madness and the chaos of everything that happened in 2020. And I think people forget about what it took to step up, whether it was in, obviously we saw what LeBron and the Heat did with the t-shirts and the I Can't Breathe, tied back to Eric Garner. Obviously Trayvon Martin was 2012, and the summer of 16 is where these things are hitting the national media in a way. And I remember sitting helplessly in my New York apartment. I was 4+ years into my career change, and I believe it was Philando Castillo was one of the lives taken by police violence, and
in Minneapolis.
And then there was somebody else in New Orleans. And I remember, like, angry typing, like, what am I doing with my life and my platform and my privilege to do anything about this? And it led me to have some very insightful phone calls with friends who came from those backgrounds. And one of those people I called was somebody by the name of Quentin Williams. And Bob, I'm not sure if I've ever discussed Quentin with you, but Quentin has an organization called Dedication to Community, and his mission has become building understanding and relationships between community and law enforcement, so everybody can get home safe at night and there can be respect and understanding. But that was through years and years of work and study. And Quentin grew up real rough in Yonkers, got to Boston College on a football scholarship, FBI prosecutor, worked in the NFL, and this became his mission. But I remember having this conversation with him, and that had gotten me on a path to continuing to wrap my mind around these things. And what's crazy here, just in terms of the irony and where I've gone as a filmmaker, is 2017 is where Charlottesville happens, and that happens in the summer, and then Kaepernick is taking a knee in the fall. You're doing this at the beginning of the basketball season. Can you paint a bit more of a picture of just your lens sitting here in 2024 with everything that's happened in between, and the importance of having the courage to do it then, knowing you were going to face all this backlash and the nonsense that went with it?
Yeah. I gotta really, I didn't know, we didn't know what was going to happen, but I gotta really give props to the guys on the team. It was their decision. They were the ones who kind of had the courage and the strength and, just, and the thoughtfulness that went into it, the conversation, and decided to do that. And I was just supported them. But, my thing was creating a space where they could do that, getting out of the way. In 2013, I became the head coach. In 2014, the guys on the team started protesting during games and leveraging their platform, especially following Michael Brown and Eric Garner. There was a game, it was one of my proudest moments right away as a head coach. And we had pretty good teams my first 2 years and we won, but my proudest moment wasn't the wins or, the kind of the success on the court in terms of, wins and that type of thing. It was when the team protested. They wore black socks, read a statement before the game, regarding some of the murders, the killings that had happened. And, recently with, and, it was powerful. It was moving. And to see them do that and, to really kind of, take advantage of their platform, was awesome. And then, that became part of who we were as a team, the identity work, and then leading up to 2017, it was November 2017, the year after Kaepernick took a knee, was when we took a knee. I think he did it possibly it was the year before. So we had a conversation the year before. The team decided that they weren't going to do it. That following year, they decided in 2017, they decided they were going to do it. And we didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. You just know it's the right thing. And I felt like it was my job and to support them and to protect them and to empower them. And we did that, and then everything, comes after that. And it was intense. And, we did that for 2 years. My last 2 years, 2017, 2018, and then 2018, 2019, we were taking a knee. The first year was more intense. 2018, 2019, we didn't get as much backlash. I got out of coaching. I decided to leave coaching. It was my choice. I wanted to get into education and kind of, as I said, coaching and basketball had kind of lost its soul for me. And I wanted to help people and empower people. And I felt like I could do that more as an educator. And I became an administrator for the city of Burlington. I was a restorative practices coordinator for the city doing DEI work, working out of the equity office. And then in 2020, George Floyd, the dual pandemic, with COVID and racism and everything that was going on, that you started to see kind of more support, especially from white people, for Black Lives Matter, et cetera. And I think there was a space where people wanted to listen more and were more willing to kind of not only, they wanted to listen, they wanted to do the work. And some of it was performative and some of it was real. I think it was genuine. And there was, teams and businesses and, more college teams and athletic departments released videos about Black Lives Matter and systemic racism and things like that. Yeah, it was just interesting to see that, and some of it, I think, was performative but it was, an interesting time. And Eric, similar to you, I felt like called to write. I felt like I really needed to write. I wasn't a coach anymore. And I wrote about my experiences, and I started to write about my experiences in coaching, my experiences with a multiracial family, raising Black daughters, and, just trying to help people see, because I sensed that people did want to see, and there was an opportunity there to make change. And that really inspired me to do the writing and to write this manuscript that I worked on throughout the pandemic and up until this point, called Seeing from the Heart, where I'm talking about my experiences in coaching, but also my experiences in a multiracial family, raising Black daughters, and what that has been like as a white man, some of the things we've gone through as a family, the racism that we've faced in Vermont, having the N-word written on our car, things that have really taken a toll on our family, and that have been really difficult. But I felt like I had to write about that. And I'm not a great writer. I'm okay,
Nah,
but
you're an excellent writer, bro. I read it.
Thank you, Bob.
I read it. I'm looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it getting published, and I hope that it
Appreciate
finds a
it.
home somewhere. I know that you've been a guest on Dave Zirin's Edge of Sports podcast. You guest now on B-Ball Radio. I do want to ask before we wrap this. It's 2024, might be 2025 when this airs. What is your relationship now with the players from that 2016, 2017 squad? Are they still in contact with you? What are their thoughts about what happened and their view of you as the person who has evolved into who you are today.
I think they appreciate and respect kind of the way I approached coaching and leadership. I think, it's hard. It was very different for a lot of them, the way I was doing things. They had come up in a very kind of ultra competitive world of, AAU basketball and seeing kind of this old school mode of coaching. So I think, the way I did things was definitely a shock to the system, but we tried to recruit student athletes and families who understood that and appreciated that we were trying to care for their kids like they were our own, like they were our family, and we wanted people who believed in that. And, I think we really recruited some special student athletes who, during that time took advantage of that environment to really have, these powerful educational experiences. And, we might not have won as many games as we could have. But I think looking back, they understand that there were more important things within that. And
the members of that team have gone on to, are they any of them playing overseas, or any of them coaching, or did they become educators, or any of them activists?
Yes. Educators, activists. There's one guy that I'm thinking of that he's actually on the podcast that I did with Dave Zirin. It's pretty amazing to listen to his perspective on it. His name is Winston, and he's actually a Long Islander, Eric. If you listen to that podcast, Winston is his reflection, his thoughts, how it has impacted him, kind of answers those questions. And I think it was a really kind of formative moment and experience for him, and I've stayed in touch with the guys. I just went to a wedding actually this past weekend on Long Island for one of our former student athletes. But, I think they understand. I get some texts from the guys. They've heard the podcasts, where I'm talking about my perspective, and, I think they get it a lot more now that there's some, time and space after college, and they've gone on to have careers in a lot of different areas. But Winston actually his thoughts are really powerful from that podcast. And he's also, the two of us, Dave Zirin wrote about us in his book, The Kaepernick Effect. So I would definitely I really think their thoughts are really important. Jason Curry, really wanted to, as much as possible, hear their thoughts too. He was so just moved by kind of what they did, and wanted other alums to hear their thoughts and perspectives. And we did panels. I mentioned we were doing panels after it and during, the kind of the taking a knee, so that people could understand. There were panels where we had, with the help of some professors at St. Michael's, they had guys from the team. They had, National Guard students who were in the National Guard, and some different people from on campus. It was really interesting, who were kind of sharing their thoughts about taking a knee, and, with different backgrounds, with different perspectives, with different identities. But I think the guys got a lot out of that. And it was definitely an important educational experience, and something that they hopefully look back on. And it's something that really helped them learn, grow, and become the people they are today.
Josh Meyer, great to have you on B-Ball Radio. Great to meet you for the first time in this realm. Obviously, we've got a lot of parallels, so we'll be keeping in touch. Bobbito, great show, my man. Thanks for bringing Josh to the table. Special shout outs to the team. No, Amanda and Deja on social media. Bobby Brooks on the edit. Bobby Brooks in the house. Sam Abunasar, as always, supporting us with archival and back-end organization. You are listening to B-Ball Radio. Bob, close it.
Whoa. And yo, follow us, man. IG, B-Ball Radio, YouTube, B-Ball Radio, Facebook, B-Ball Radio, Twitter, B-Ball Radio, TikTok, B-Ball Radio, Apple, B-Ball Radio. Follow, click, like, comment, all that. Share, forward. Listen to every episode.
Tell your crew.
There you go. Thank you, yo. Josh, my man, we're going to see you on the court soon, all right? Spider drills.
No doubt,
Spider drills for at least 15 minutes.
Let's do it. Ball handling drills. Yeah, no doubt. Eric and Bob, thank you so much. Peace.
B-Ball Radio.